girl walking through a fire courageously, being burnt alive, and then somehow rescued by the grace of Allah. Yes, if you are in the pro-Palestinian camp, not only is the picture an argument, but nothing other than a picture could ever be an argument. Because if you ever try to make an argument, you would fail because you're on the side of savages. Savages who, by the way, people, including children, I'm sure, are getting killed and burnt alive because of those savages that you support. Yes, the latest in Palestinian propaganda yesterday, if you spent even a few minutes on social media, you probably saw this image, this video of a girl walking in front of a burning building, or as it was presented, inside a burning building. Then you may have seen an interview with her, or you may have seen an image of her completely burned in a hospital. It's not clear who's who, but it doesn't matter who's who. What matters is that this is out there. And Last week we talked about the 14,000 Palestinian babies in Gaza are going to die within 48 hours. And I may have already said this, but I'll say it again. I encourage you to go and look at anybody on Twitter who uh, promoted this, see if there's a correction, an apology, if they deleted those tweets. No, they didn't, because it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It matters that it's out there and it gets a result. That 14,000 babies dying within 48 hours got a result. I don't know if it was a direct result, but yeah, two Jews were then killed for being Jews. Mission accomplished. Will the mission be accomplished with this latest propaganda? Probably, hopefully not. Welcome to the reality show. I'm joined by Daniel, Alex, and Iyar. Welcome, everybody. Iyar, your initial thoughts on this?
Well, I think we are playing a defensive game uh, when we interact with the world. We don't need to like think about it like you're in court, okay? And people claim things against you. You don't need to prove your innocence. They need to prove their claims. And the burden here is flipped. We have to face all those lies, all this propaganda, and prove our innocence instead of being focused in self-defense. Now, I do have criticism for Israel, and the criticism is that we are so obsessed with trying to show the world how good we are. So we didn't do what we had to do, and this war is now taking 2 years. And this is like a very clear message to the world that we have no self-esteem, that we are not allowing ourselves to do what we should do, and we ourselves implicitly by doing that stating we know we are wrong here in a way. So like they just like say, okay, you guys are wrong. You guys are acting as if you're wrong yourself. So what do you want from us? So in this regard, I have a lot of criticism for Israel. We should have done what our haters saying we're doing earlier. We should have laid a true blockade on Gaza, true siege, make them surrender. It should have taken several months top, and it would have been over.
Yeah, I don't think it would have taken even months, but yeah, Israeli officials did say at the time, one of the statements I really liked in the days after October 7th was uh, they told the Egyptians, if you send fuel trucks into Gaza, we'll bomb them. That is the correct approach, but Israel didn't act on it. And by the way, if you look at the case in The Hague, it's mostly statements by Israeli politicians rather than any action that Israel has taken. Also, yeah, you were talking about the burden of proof in a court of law. The burden of proof in the court of Twitter is quite different. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Jonathan says, "Team Alex." Alex, your thoughts on this latest? Although, yeah, if you want to talk about the stuff we saw last week in Palestinian propaganda as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that we see this pattern, and it's kind of over and over again, and we've seen it maybe for the past 30 or 40 years, in that whenever Israel actually goes and does a really tremendous action and really does, defends herself, we see that the world reacts to it in an extremely positive way, right? And I'm talking about the pagers, okay, and I'm talking about when we attacked the Syrian nuclear reactor in 2008, 2007, right? There was the Bush administration, we know they made this face, we're not happy, okay? But there was a quiet acceptance of this respect, right? There was this understanding, okay, the Israelis are going to do what they have to do to defend themselves, okay? Yet, all of the times that we blustered about a nuclear reactor and didn't act upon it, right? The Americans treated us with, I'm talking about the government, treated us with nothing but contempt. Okay. And even thinking back, I mean, this is really a pattern. And we see this really playing out in the kind of the court of public opinion. The more Israelis and the government, okay, apologizes and tries to, really act as a lawyer, okay, in a case of just ludicrous, right? It's a ludicrous case. It's like, we were kind of talking earlier in the chat, okay, about the Brigitte Macron and her being a man thing, okay? It's like this is a ridiculous argument. This is a ridiculous conversation, okay? It's like you don't even pay attention to that, right? You because it's actually a problem, and the fact that they see us reacting to it constantly, right? Reacting to it. We're not killing 1,400 babies, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, like this is the terrorist organization that used to say we were selling people's organs. That everything is just a lie. They lie to their own people, that we're digging underneath Al-Aqsa, trying to make it collapse, right? That we're putting hormones in the water, that we can control the weather, right? That we have psychic snakes that can be, and not, I mean, it's just another one. 1,400 babies. Yeah, it's just another mind-reading snake, in my opinion.
Yeah. Also, the Brigitte Macron thing is now also sexist because the suggestion that women can't be responsible for domestic violence or can't be guilty of it, that's
I
very
mean,
sexist.
that's not the
Uh,
argument. That's not the conversation we were having. I mean, we
I
were
know.
talking
I'm
about
trying
that.
to
And it's
tone it
like,
down for her.
but that's a good thing. Please join ARCUK because then you can join in with the conversation about maybe you have strong feelings about Brigitte Macron. We want to hear them.
Yeah, what we do here for 90 minutes, we keep going on WhatsApp 24/7. Yeah, you mentioned the 2007 strike in Syria. I remember hearing Olmert say something like he had a conversation with Bush that went something like, we're going to do this. And Bush says, I can't sign off on it. And he says, okay. And then it gets done, which, yeah, sounds like the way you want to do it. I do have to always have an asterisk of Olmert was prime minister back then, but he's also a convicted felon and an overall piece of shit. Um, Susie said earlier in the chat, fired Elon Levy was best at communicating Israel's position to the West. Absolutely, among Israeli spokespeople, I agree. We did an episode right after he was fired titled something like Elon Levy fired for being too pro-Israel. Daniel, I think that was the title, right? Any thoughts on what's going on with this with the latest propaganda?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to sort of like, going back and seeing if any retractions happen, the thing is they don't matter. Like, no, once that gets out there, retractions don't matter. Like, people, what will get repeated is there was a girl in the fire that was caused by Israel, and this is the fault of Israel, right? If you go back, 14,000 babies, I'm sure in a week, in months, that will be repeated, that will come back. I mean, people might remember the number 186,000, which came from the Lancet journal, where basically they took one number, uh, what do you call them? Basically, what
There
is
was
that?
some statistical trick, I forget the name of it, but
Yeah, but
yeah,
what is that
something.
mathematical operation called?
I don't remember.
It's the opposite of division is multiplication. They
Multiplication?
multiplied the number by 5 and they got this number. And that is now being repeated. That is always being repeated. I think something like that was repeated in the manifesto of the guy who killed the couple in Washington D.C. So you have this, right? Something gets mentioned and or something gets published, something gets out there, and before it can be debunked, before anybody can take a look at it, it gets repeated. And that is that's why, yeah, maybe as Yar said earlier, this should pretty much be ignored. Like when something is put out there without any evidence, when something is put out there with no sort of it should be basically ignored. Like you don't have to debunk every single like random thing that happens, right? So yeah, this gets out. I mean, now we have Francesca Albanese. She posted on this. She's the UN Special Rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territories. She said, "I've seen the silhouettes of so many people, so many children burning alive that I can't look at fire anymore without feeling sick to my stomach. We must stop this massacre. May the Palestinians forgive us." So again, no context for the fact that this is a war. Like, yeah, any children that die during a war, it's sad. It like the fact that we can sort of like watch wars live is at like a terrible state, right? The fact that you can see it, like nobody should try to sort of like say that, war is this nice. It's only like the men of military age who have nothing to lose for like fighting on the battlefield and nobody, nothing else happens. No, war is like incredibly destructive. That's why you have to finish as soon as possible. You have to end it as soon as possible. And you cannot like have it go on indefinitely as these international organizations want, because that's what they are advocating for. Any ceasefire, when there is a clear side that there is right, is just going to have this indefinite fighting forever. And again, this is what these organizations are calling for. This is what Francesca Albanese is calling for. It's always the fault of Israel for fighting back, never the fault of Palestinians. The fact that they have started this conflict, the fact that they perpetuate this conflict. Again, Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territories, she's not going to report about the Palestinian human rights violation in the territories. No, she's reporting on Israeli violations on the Palestinian side, which again, that's the only UN Special Rapporteur which is like collecting information in one territory against somebody else doing something. In every other country, it's you are reporting to that respective country.
Yeah, to use the word reporting for anything Francesca Albanese does, I mean, scroll through her Twitter and it is that kind of stuff that you read. It's all, overly emotional language. She's not making, she's sometimes repeating Hamas numbers and stuff, but she's not making any rational case again, because there is no rational case. There's no civilized human being who would consider supporting the Palestinians if they actually know exactly what's going on, and that's what they want you to see images, ideally of children in the worst possible situations, and for you to conclude what they want you to conclude, which is the people responsible for that are not, the people who started the war and are hiding behind those children, but the people defending their own children and themselves, despite the fact that the savages are hiding behind their own children. Akira said about Elon Levy, he was fired because he was not expressing Israel's position. If he had, he would have not have been fired. Yeah, I mean, to an extent, he sounded pro-Israel more than Israel's actual policies. But yeah, I don't know. There was some behind-the-scenes stuff there. Maybe Alex can fill us in a minute. And Anne says
Razi,
what?
can
Sorry.
I add something?
Yes.
The implication of that statement is that Israel has pride in its statements, which it doesn't. So once Elon has a little bit of proud and a little bit like standing for Israel, so the prideless, Israeli Hasbara people was like, oh my God, we gotta get him off of here. He's going too far. He has too much pride in Israel. He's like standing for what Israel is doing, and that's like we're just used to apologizing, so we gotta show him the boot.
Okay, Alex has stuff to say about this. I just want to read something else that Alex, you might be able to answer. Anne asks, how dependent is Israel on USA for weapons and support? Can they manage without the backing? Alex.
Yeah, so as far as I understood with the Elon Levy thing, because I'm friendly with uh, another one of the prime minister's spokespeople, and I think this was public, totally public, and I'm not, spilling the beans or anything, but apparently Elon Levy was an anti-Bibi activist before he started working for Bibi, and then after it kind of came to light. So, like, I think that it was really far more like a dirty political thing rather than like, oh, he's being too good at his job. I think it was that's from what I understood is that that's what he was up to, and he'd written some things and done some things that the prime minister felt very. Also, there's egos involved. You can't outshine the master. Elon Levy was also outshining the Bibi in some capacity. I mean, obviously, I'm being a bit facetious there, but still, there was personal things going on. So I don't want to like extrapolate too much out of it.
All right. Can Israel do without the US?
You asking me?
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
can answer, but I think your answer is better informed, probably.
Yes, absolutely. In my opinion, of course,
Right
I
now?
think absolutely. What are you talking about from a military standpoint?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think that necessity is like the mother of all invention. And if you look back, I was even today, I was I made a video where I was thinking a lot about the 6-Day War, and I was also Daniel and I actually went to Givat Tachmoshet to Ammunition Hill to see some of the weaponry there. But I got a chance to actually look at a big kind of list of all of the weaponry from basically 48, and even if you want to think about it, 47 from the Palestine War, right? The Palestine War that happened before the War of Independence for a year, right? So this 2-year insurgency going all the way up to 1968, 1969. And it was just a mishmash of basically scrap metal, okay? Like, Nazi planes. So I think that, yes, there is, I think that we could do it. But I think you would have to just completely, not the way that we're fighting at the moment, right? I mean, each one of those ordnance, maybe ER knows exactly how much, but between $50,000 and $100,000. So you could not conduct this kind of war that you're conducting now, right? Right? I don't think it would be possible. I think we would have to change our strategy, change the way we're fighting, change our entire philosophical approach to war. And then, yeah, sure, be more independent, okay, or have other partners. But I think that is a necessity at this point.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Eyal, you have an answer to this.
Yeah, I have a quite an indirect comment that will add on that, and is that doing the right thing has a price. Now, saying we're gonna fight Gazans in the proper way, it has prices. If we really lay a siege and do whatever it takes and lead to their immediate surrender, etc., we will get heat from the West and from the United States, and they'll be very angry, and it might even cost to our economy. But the reward is that we're doing the right thing. The war will end very quickly. We don't need ammunition to lay siege. We have our boats from the Navy, and we control all the borders except for Egypt. So the toughest mission would be taking over Rafah, which we already did. And then we just say, okay, we close the water. We don't give you gasoline. We don't give you food until you surrender and bring back the hostages. And then we put you guys on trial, etc., etc. You don't need smart bombs for that. You don't need super high-end equipment for that. You need to close the damn tap. So yeah, it has prices. The prices is not about USA. It's about, yeah, people are gonna be very angry at us for a few months until it will be over, and then it's over, and then a few months will pass by and we'll recover. They'll forget about it, and there will be no more enemy in Gaza because we won, and that's it. But people are just like saying, "Oh no, this is metaphysically impossible." Like people cannot make those decisions instead of figuring out that, like, yeah, people need to understand what's the right thing to do and support it, and then we'll do it. It's possible. It has been done. There has been movements in the past that made leaders and nations change their mind about things. And my favorite example is the anti-slavery movement. Everybody were pro-slavery 400 years ago, and then this movement came and says, "No, listen, people, we can change our mind and ban slavery." And everybody was like, "Oh my God, you're extremists. You're wrong. This is impossible. Nobody's going to do it. Nobody's going to allow it." And they've managed to convince the Western world to ban slavery, which that's what happened. So we can do the same thing about justice in war, true justice. That is, that if a nation that is anti-human life, that is about a nation that's about murdering and destroying, and that's how it rolls, attacks a country that protects human rights. So this country has a right to defend itself and do whatever it takes. And the responsible for the death and suffering is on the aggressor, is on the evil society. And then we just do what we got to do. We are proud of that. We end it quickly with minimal casualties to us, and that's it. So the whole question about do we have enough ammunition to do this tit for tat, half-assed war with special bombs that come to precisely the fifth floor western wall of the goddamn house to get the terrorist without getting his wife and children is irrelevant.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree with you completely about, movements. The problem is bad movements have succeeded in the past, and I do think the direction at the moment is absolutely the wrong one. Of course, we are doing our best here, and I know you were doing your best there to change that. You said doing the right thing has its price, and in this case for Israel, the price is only rising. There's like a daily interest on it from October 7th until today.
Because we're doing the wrong things in a
Yeah.
way that but what I'm saying might be interpreted by Israeli haters as, oh, Israel is doing the wrong thing by killing people and initiating war. And I'm saying, no, the opposite. Just to clarify what I'm saying, we're not doing enough of that. We need to be way more cruel against our enemy, so the surrender would be quicker and less costly to us, the side that's protecting himself. And this will end the war. And by end the war, I mean a decisive victory for Israel, a true victory.
Absolutely. I don't know why I'm reading this. I kind of know, but I'm not sure it's the right decision, and that I will agree with myself later on. But somebody says in the chat, the Jews will be hated for the next 100 years due to the inhumane treatment of the Palestinians. And this is the thing, when the Guardian and the BBC repeat these Jews, but Israel, is about to kill 14,000 babies. They know very well what they're doing. They can't say the quiet part out loud, but this low life in the chat can, and I know it's a sample size of one, but it's not. And I'll give another cheap plug for my Twitter. Go to my Twitter and look at the replies I get. And again, it is mostly it's anti-Semitic in I think they would admit, actually they wouldn't call it anti-Semitic, just anti-Jew, but that is what it is, and this is what this movement is. They understand they understand what they're doing, and they're doing it anyway. And so my message is to Israelis and people who are pro-Israel, who are kind of trying to find common ground. There is no common ground between kill all Jews and anything decent. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that Jews are going to be hated for 100 years because of their treatment of Palestinians is insane. Jews are going to be hated for the next 1,000 years no matter what they do. Do you think Jews started being hated, or anti-Semitism rose after October 7, or after 48 or 47, or after the 80s when sort of like first Jews came into, or sort of Jews started coming more into the region? No, they've been hated forever. Since there was Judaism, there were people trying to wipe out Jews. That has been a movement, or sort of like something that has been happening this whole time. Jews have been kicked out from almost every single country that they try to go in. So again, trying to say that it's only because of the treatment of Palestinians, or it's only because, and again, what they are trying to say, because Israel exists, that's why Jews are being hated. So if Israel stops existing, anti-Semitism will go away. Trust me. If only Jews go back to Poland, then it will go away. Now, I think there were a few more things. Oh, sort of like if how reliant or if Israel needs sort of American sort of support. Well, there's sort of like two separate things. There is the American aid, and then there is like a reliance for exporting or sort of importing weapons from America. Because for America, it's in great interest to have its weapons, its systems to be around the world. For America to be sort of like a number one supplier of pretty much everything, so they can control it. And to some extent, that is a problem for Israel when the ammunition is being denied that they want to even buy. Might not be even talking about like aid from going in, but actually like simply buying it or receiving the ammunition that they already paid for that is being denied because of Israeli actions. That can also be problematic, and it needs to be figured out. Iyar mentioned sort of that there is a cost to doing the right thing. Well, let me introduce to a much bigger cost of not doing the right thing, because that is only a short-term thing when you don't do the right thing, because in the future, you will suffer the consequences of not doing whatever is necessary. Again, the government has one purpose. It's to extract force and initiation of force from human interaction and to defend its citizens from external force. There is no price that is too high for that. That is what governments needs to do. That's why, the governments in Europe are now talking about, upping their defense spending, which is like small the way they are talking about it. Like, this is not something that maybe if we have time, if there is like place in the budget, maybe we can actually get our defenses towards where we can actually defend against foreign threats. No, it's something you do whatever the cost. It's not something you can simply avoid or you can ignore. It's the same principle of like doing the right thing. Yeah, so mostly my points.
I just quickly want to address another one of the regular trolls in the chat says, nobody hates Jews, stop lying, referring to me lying. I literally read your co-trolls post, verbatim. I didn't reword it. And yeah, so that is what your movement is. That is who you are, even if you attempt to convince us otherwise. And again, scroll up a bit and see what your fellow travelers are saying. Alex.
Oh, so sorry, just to quickly jump in, because somebody in the chat was saying cruelty and killing the enemy population is not what wins war. It's killing enemy combatants. That's simply not true. Show me one war which was basically, some people went into some field, killed each other a bit, and then, they decided what to do with the war. Every single war required an occupation on the other side if it went to the complete victory. Like, this is well, like go to any war in the past. Again, this is you're trying to sanitize war. You're trying to make war as if it's like an okay human interaction. Sometimes we trade with each other and sometimes we kill each other, and both of those are sort of like an okay thing to do. No, war is an absolute. You basically are saying you can no longer reason with the other side. You can no longer live in a civil state with the other side, and the only thing you can do is kill each other. That is not an acceptable human behavior. And when that happens, you have to shut that down. When we have murderers, we shut them in prison. We deny their ability to live alone. We disallow completely their independence, because we understand that once a person decides to do that, decides to simply murder people, they are not fit for human society.
Yeah, I have to say, I think this troll is trolling us fully, because he's now giving World War II as an example of civilians not being killed. Of course, Dresden and Hamburg and Berlin and Tokyo and Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not those were not civilian targets. Those were not military targets. But of course, there's the reason this person is saying that is because they want Israel to never fight back. Because you can never fight Palestinians if you can never fight when somebody's hiding behind civilians, because that's all they do. Okay, I'll get to the super chat after I get back to Alex and then Yao. Alex.
Yeah, so I mean, I really think that I encourage everybody to read a couple of things. First of all, would be the archive of Vasili Matroken, as well as their two Soviet spies, and Ion Pasepka. I'm sorry, I'm butchering his Romanian name a little bit. He was part of the Secret Service under Ceausescu. And if you really want to understand what is happening here, because they studied Jews and they said, we know what is going to they groomed the PLO, and it's all in the files. They groomed the PLO later on Abu Mazen, I think probably it was Fatah then before it became the PA. And they said, you need to commit violent acts of terrorism, drive the Jews completely insane, right? Just really drive them, completely off the edge with the bloodshed, okay, and the terror and the horror, okay? And, the world is not going to look upon them like they are the small nation fighting back against the people talk about the 6 Day War like it was 4 or 5 Arab armies. No, it was like 12. Okay, because Pakistan got involved and Iraq, obviously, Kuwait. I mean, it was literally everybody. So, and they curated this very clear, coordinated message. They said, we know exactly the anti-Semitic sentiments in the Arab world, okay, really going to play off of come off the tail end of the Muslim Brotherhood, the conspiratorial nature of the Islamic way of thinking about Jews. Okay, we're going to come off of that, and we're going to drive this very conspiratorial narrative about Jews just being so bloodthirsty, and that is going to drive them even more crazy. And the more they defend themselves, the more guilty they're going to look. I mean, again, read this. This is so the first one is going to be the Vasili Matroken archive, and the second is the book about the active measures. It will come back to me in a second. Very, very good book about this exact phenomenon. And I feel that we're able to recognize it, we're able to acknowledge the problem, and yet there's a big weakness, I think, in Israel, okay, that there is a continuation to engage with this line of thinking. I don't think that Israel stands up and tries to defend themselves against some of the Nazis' accusations, okay, about Jews being, dirty and having inferior, racial characteristics. No one is standing up and saying, hey, let us prove you wrong. But with this Soviet anti-Semitic garbage, we react to it, okay? And I feel that it's a severe weakness, and it really is. You can tell it's really it's really soaked into the ideology and the philosophy of the citizens, and as well, of course, the military and political echelon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to address the point on the clear war, like the clean war, that we shouldn't inflict suffering on the civilians. I want to set a few things straight. First of all, in war, you need to define the good side and the bad side. And in most cases, there are good side and bad side. And it's quite easy to define them. When there is an immoral dictatorship that is against human rights and against human liberties within its own territory, unprovoked, which is like the routine times in Gaza. This is like a dictatorship that murders people, uses people, tortures people. We have evidence, videos of Hamas bureau torturing innocent people, innocent Palestinians in Gaza. And when they attack a neighbor that is human rights respecting and mostly peaceful, so it's completely clear who's right and who's wrong. Once you are in this situation, the good side has to get some tactical and strategic military goals in order for the evil to completely surrender. Now, these tactical and strategic goals might and might not involve civilians. It doesn't matter. You can prefer the purely military goals, but it's for the decision of the state that's defending itself, the good state. But This is immoral to give up necessary such goals in war in order to defend enemy population, and it is even more immoral to risk your own soldiers and civilians to protect the enemy, whether it's civilians or soldiers or whatever. Especially when you see who's good and who's evil, and I don't care about the anti-Semites who says we're the evil side. They're completely delusional and detached from reality. Now, I'd also like to address the point about like, oh, the way we're treating Gaza now will lead to 100 years of hatred for the Jews. I'd like to go back to the anti-slavery movement again, and the point that I've just stated is as absurd as somebody saying, like, I don't know, 300 years ago to an anti-slavery movement member is going to tell them, oh, listen, slave owners are going to hate you for the next 100 years for fighting slavery. And the reason I give to this example is to show the principle. And the principle is that, like, they're going to hate us. Who is going to hate us and by which standard? There is no reason for us to stop doing the right thing and to stop ourselves from defending ourselves, because the haters of justice are going to hate the Jews. I don't give a damn about them. They might inflict some damage on us, but the way to deal with this problem is to defend themselves and to promote justice and do the right thing, not to surrender ourselves to stupid, delusional, self-hating anti-Semites.
Yep. Thank you, Christian, for the super chat. Christian says, I have to admit, I laughed about the slap Brigitte gave Emmanuel. He deserved it for his Israel comments. I know that this is not a very rational statement, though. First of all, I guarantee you, I don't know what's going on between those two, but I guarantee you it wasn't about his Israel comments. But yeah, look, my general approach when something like this, or, something worse, like, Biden's cancer happens, is I don't celebrate it, but there are good people in the world who are victims of domestic abuse, who have cancer. There are also people who maybe aren't good but aren't evil, that are in such situations. I reserve my sympathy for those before I have any for people like Macron and Biden. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat. Thank you, Hazel, for the super chat. Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, this idea that sort of you'll be hated or this population will be hated. Do like Japanese or Germans like hate Americans, and or do like the Southerners like hate the Northerners? You have section in probably all those populations who do, and they are suckers. They are not like taken seriously. You have the lost causers in America who like talk about the South heritage, which they are ridiculed. Nobody takes them seriously. You have like the neo-Nazis. Nobody takes them seriously. I'm sure maybe Japan has something as well, but maybe Japan doesn't even have that. And we were the harshest on Japan. So maybe that shows you the opposite, that the stronger the response is, the more resolute the response is. I mean, I always, this is obviously not... it's just an example, but I always remember that one video where American went to Japan and asked an old man from Japan if he hates America, and he says, "No, anybody you knew what happened, you learned English because you understood what happened, and anybody who refused to learn English, anybody who was unhappy about the American occupation, or anybody who wanted back the old regime was a sucker, was somebody who wants to lose." Who wants to like stay in this ideology of loss. And that is something that Palestinians also need to learn, and something that can change. But the fact is that they've never there wasn't a single time where they were taught that lesson. And to some extent that is a problem also with Arabs in Israel proper. Now, obviously those are we need to look at those two populations in a different way. But the fact is, international organizations have always said to Palestinians, you can fight forever and nothing will happen to you. We'll keep supporting you no matter what terrorism you support, no matter what terrorist organization you support. We'll stay behind you. So just keep on fighting. If you commit October 7, we'll reward you. We'll give you more funding to UNRWA. The European Union will give more funding to Palestinian Authority because that's the moderate side. then there will be more funding for Gaza because that's the less moderate side. Many nations, such as Spain, such as Norway, will recognize the Palestinian state. Upcoming in the conference with the Saudi Arabia, maybe even France will recognize Palestinian state. So keep on fighting and you'll win. And in many ways, Israel has done the same thing, right? Okay, we did occupy Gaza, or we did occupy Sinai, but we'll give it back. We'll occupy Gaza, but we are not really sort of like staying here. It's sort of unsure. We occupy Judea and Samaria, but we'll negotiate to give it back. So it was never that you've lost and that's it. Like it was with West Germany, like it was with Japan. You've lost and we'll stay here unless we think it's right to leave. And unless that happens, you'll have this endless. Because again, why should Palestinians surrender? They win either way. Either they wipe out Israel, which is good for them, or nothing. They can get another chance later.
Yeah, I want to go back to I'm kind of reiterating the point I made at the beginning, but with the girl in the fire incident, which again, I encourage people to go look at some anti-Israel accounts on social media, some of the bigger ones, okay, not some random person just swearing at Jews, and look at the evolution of just this one story yesterday. Like, look at from the moment that she was burnt alive, which obviously the video makes it it's not obviously 100% clear what's going on there, but there is no way that she's being burnt alive at that moment unless she's walking in to the building, to paramedic rescuing her with no burns or whatever, her being interviewed, and then some other picture of some other child that's burnt that's supposedly her. But there was also the story in recent days of a Palestinian family where 9 out of the 10 kids were killed. This was repeated in a bunch of places. Now, I saw a story on Israel's Channel 14 about Ayman Uda, the leader of the Israeli Communist Party, sharing some picture of this family, there was a picture of this family that was shared. And then it turns out that he had also shared a picture, the same picture, months ago, but with a name of a different family that had also gone through something. And again, this story does not mean that it was not 9 out of 10 kids in this family that died a few days ago. It doesn't mean that whatever Ayman Uda was saying a few months ago isn't true, although not both can be true. But it does mean back to the same point that it does not matter, because once it's out there, people will react the way the Ayman Udas of the world want them to react. Alex.
I mean, to be honest, I didn't, I saw the story and I said, yeah, okay, maybe it happens. And so, isn't that a shame? Isn't that a shame that these poor children were not allowed to leave the house, right, when there was going to be a bomb being dropped? Isn't it terrible that this is what they do, right? That they will probably, say, I mean, we know already that the terrorists don't let the women and children leave whenever there's a warning, right? They have to convince them for hours. Okay, please get out, please get out, please get out, please get out. Okay. And that's not to say that, of course, things can't be genuine, like I mean, they're all unintentional, but no, actually they're not unintentional. They are intentional deaths that are at the hands of Hamas, who generally it's going to be these people's relatives. Okay. Very, very common for this to happen. This story turned out, in effect, not to be true, but if it was, then who is responsible for that? I think we've forgotten these things. I think also that we kind of are living in this sort of pretend reality whereby we're saying, this is like the British Army fighting another army, right? Whereas, no, I don't think so, because I don't think that the British Army they sent their children away, actually. They evacuated their children from the main cities. They imagine how difficult that is to, you're a parent and you send your 6-year-old to go and live with a random family. That's how much you don't want harm to come to them. Whereas in Gaza, the normal thing is to force your children to stay in the house with you. It's some kind of Himmler level, sorry, not Himmler, who was the propagandist Goebbels. It's some Goebbels level stuff, yeah? Where they poisoned their children, okay, because they didn't want them to exist in a world without National Socialism. Okay, we see a lot of child abuse in this respect, and it's completely forgiven. So, well, what do you expect? They're savages. What do you expect? They can't be, you can't expect them to reason. You can't expect them to want anything better. They're suffering, right? Let's not ask any more questions here, right? You're the strong people who have reason, and these people, they're just, they can't think. Yeah, it's this, I would never think that, okay? And even the level of contempt that Westerners show to Palestinians who want a better life, right, with Israel, okay, in partnership, to work with them, to have a cordial, functional relationship with them as an employee-employer relationship, or to sell a house or whatever it is. It's this immediate condemnation. How dare you want to sell your house to a Jew for $1 million? How dare you want to work in the SodaStream factory for 5 times the average salary that you earn in Ramallah? How dare you want these things? And we're going to force you not to have them. That's what this whole thing is. You have to stay there and you have to fight the Jews to death. That is your job. You can't, you're the last ones holding out here.
Thank you, Apollo Zeus, for the super chat. To the people saying don't justify the killing of the babies, you're not new on this channel. Nobody is justifying the killing of the babies. That is the Palestinian way. This is a very anti-Palestinian channel, if you haven't realized that yet. So yeah, we are the side that is against killing children. We are the side that is against genocide. No matter what words the other side uses, that is what they are for. Hazel asked about can I name anti-Israel channels? I mean, they don't deserve the publicity, but we do cover them a lot. Like we did something on Owen Jones yesterday. Abby Martin is somebody I would recommend watching, probably on mute. And also go on my Twitter and look at the replies I get. As I've been saying, that's where I get most of the stuff. But also just generally on Twitter, just search Gaza. Most of what you will see is poison. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the people in Gaza, and most of them are being framed as innocent and uninvolved. And I'd like to address that. So first of all, the vast majority of people in Gaza have accepted willfully the ideology that basically says we need to do jihad against Israel. We need to do Makamama. And yeah, there is division within Gaza. There are many fractions. There is Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Al Qaeda, ISIS, the Democratic Palestinian faction, which are communist, and the popular Palestinian faction, which are communist as well. So there is all of these fractions that are conflicting within each other on what is the proper way to destroy all the Jews. Some want to do it Al Qaeda style. Some want to have a communist utopia after they murder all the Jews. Some want to have an Islamic state after they kill all the Jews. So this is like the vast majority of Gaza. Now, there might be some quote unquote uninvolved people who are not belong to any large family that is assigned with one of those fractions. Yeah, those people exist. Most of them probably left or been murdered by Hamas or whatever, but they exist. But they as well, and I'm talking about the adults, of course, are committing a moral crime. And the moral crime they're committing is giving moral sanction to those other people by not siding with Israel. If you live in a dictatorship and there is a peaceful state that's trying to dismantle this dictatorship, and you'd prefer to give moral sanction to the evil dictatorship rather than join forces with the good guys coming to save you, like, for example, the French resistance in World War II or whatever, you're committing a moral crime. And yes, all of the people in Gaza, both, the people in Hamas and Islamic Jihad and ISIS and Al Qaeda and whatever families there are, whatever side they're siding with, all of these people, yes, they have children. And the uninvolved, quote unquote, those people who commit the crime of still supporting those other people, they have children. And these children suffer and die in war, and the fault is on their parents who support this evil. You want children to stop dying in Gaza, call their parents to stop supporting the Nazi jihadist notion of let's kill all the Jews. How about you forfeit this idea and the war would stop? How about that? So whenever a child dies in Gaza, that's tragic in the human sense. And the people who carry responsibility for this death is the people who support evil, who support the attempt of a true genocide against the Jews. And once you stop giving those people moral sanction, the suffering will end. But those anti-Semites saying, "Oh, Israel is killing babies," those anti-Semites don't address justice. They completely ignore the context, the true context of Israel defending itself. They completely ignore the evil ideology that is basically a consensus among Gaza. And even those tiny minority who doesn't hold this ideology still sanction it and still allow it and still like they don't do whatever it takes to stop it. So like who are those uninvolved, those saints who are actually support democracy and justice and human rights? Where are they? Why don't they speak up? And some people can say, oh, they have no choice because they are being forced violently by Hamas to be quiet. Well, listen, human beings have this amazing ability, and this is an ability to have a choice between alternatives. It's called free will, and they can choose. Do they want to side Hamas, and do they want to side Israel? And if they choose the side of Hamas, and they don't do whatever it takes to rescue themselves from this evil, they have a moral responsibility for their suffering.
Okay, we're almost out of time. Stedman, the point is absolutely taken that the title of the video has the word debunking, which usually we go through a bunch of stuff, and Stedman asks, besides, it does not matter what are the facts of the case. So the point is, as Palestinian propaganda goes, it really does not matter. Of course, it matters, if a child is still alive or not, but it does not matter, war-wise in terms of how you judge a war. It matters only as a propaganda tool. And by the way, we talked yesterday about Owen Jones and the first video he put out after October 7th being titled Palestinian Lives Matter. Palestinian lives matter to the pro-Palestinian side only to the extent that they can be used as propaganda tools. And of course, absolutely, when they end in a way that could be used as propaganda tools, or when you can present it as if they ended in a way that can be used as a propaganda tool. So yeah, that's why this story matters so much. It is a journey that happened yesterday. That this story took this journey, and it took, this is ultimately the goal of this. This is being put out there, people hear it, and people get to the conclusion they're supposed to, which is ultimately to hate Jews and ideally, I guess, do what was done last week in DC. So yeah, that is the essence of why we did the story. Thank you, Bronx Guy, Gun Hill Road, for the super chat. We are really out of time, but Daniel, quick parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I just would build upon the idea that Palestinians have to resist Hamas if they want something better. And if somebody says, it's hard to stand up, that's why you do it before a war starts. That's why you have to do it when the first signs, well, within Palestinian population, the first signs were a long time ago. But when the first signs start showing, you have to stand up. Right now, Prime Minister of my country is saying, maybe we don't actually need elections. And I'm already thinking about, okay, maybe I don't actually need to stay here. You don't wait. Like you don't wake up one day and you find yourself in a war. Germans during World War II didn't suddenly wake up and Jews are getting holocausted and there is a war and nothing. No, it started with Jewish businesses started getting targeted and people looked the other way, or people allowed it to happen. That's how these kind of things happen. When the Hamas took over in Gaza and the Fatah-Hamas conflict happened, you should realize that, okay, this will probably not have another election. That's when you stand up, not when Hamas get entrenched, not when already everybody is helping with the political side.
Alex, parting thoughts on where could people find you?
Yeah, I mean, my parting thoughts actually today are just going to be to recommend to everybody to check out the obviously check out the Ayn Rand Center UK, and I also highly recommend to check out the Vasili Matroken story in the archives there, because there's a lot of very interesting stuff. In addition to that, the book on the Soviet anti-Semitism by I always butcher his name, but his name is Pasepka. I really can't say it very well. He wrote a book, Red Horizons, that was just perfect. And Disinformatia was the other book, right? It's just how about a Soviet anti-Semitism? Because I think it puts a lot of order into exactly what is happening right now and how reactive the general public is to it.
Yeah, parting thoughts and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'd like to recommend an article by Yonatan Daon, which is a member of our movement Victory Now, called The Moral Collapse of Hasbara. I've sent the link to Daniel, so if you could put it on the bio, it would be lovely. And you can find me at victory.now. If you liked my style, my messages, and once again, telling you here on this channel that we're planning to release a book and start a movement in Israel to push for true Israeli victory and a true moral case for Israel's victory. So www.victory.now, you can sign up for the waiting list for the book.
I'm Razi Ginsburg on X. Hazel, I am also blocked by Owen Jones. Yeah, that is a prestigious club. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We're back tomorrow with the Daily Objective and the reality show.